Good afternoon. Welcome to GDI Consulting's webinar on the GSA 2GIT BPA opportunity. My name is Cal and I am your artificial intelligence host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDI Consulting and a subject matter expert on these opportunities. Ab will guide you through today's deep dive into the 2GIT program. We'll cover where it's been, how it performed, and most importantly, how you can position your business to win the next phase of this major federal opportunity. Whether you're new to 2GIT or looking to improve your standing, this session is designed to give you actionable intelligence. A little bit about the presenter. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts and is a regular contributor to Washington Technology and other online GovCon magazines. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and APEX, previously PTAC, offices throughout the U.S. Before starting, there are a few housekeeping notes I would like to mention. First, this webinar is being recorded and the link to the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first have a quick glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Then, a little bit of a background on the GSA 2GIT program. After that, Ab will discuss the general details of the 2GIT BPA opportunity and its scope of work. Next will come a detailed discussion of the scoring system and its subfactors. In this, Ab will also touch on the subject of teaming and partnering, as well as how pricing works for this BPA submission. Then Ab will discuss the source selection process, and then some upcoming dates for the 2GIT follow-on. We will also show you how we can help you prepare for the next follow-on. Before going into the Q&A, Ab will summarize this webinar most important points and takeaways. So, with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to first give a short glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Ab, you can take over now.
Hello everyone, and thank you for participating in our GSA 2GIT BPA webinar. We have a lot to cover, so I will be very quick on this GDI Consulting glimpse so that we can get to the main subject of the webinar. So just to read off some major metrics: 98% win rate on self-scoring proposals. We had 98 clients for Oasis Plus, 97 of them were awarded. 82% win rate on DoD opportunities, over 650 happy customers. Over 86 large clients, some of them from the top 10 list of defense contractors. We helped 6 companies win on the previous 2GIT, 6 out of 6 wins for 2GIT. 2024, we had 289 wins with $19.6 billion of contracts. I won't read off the rest of this. You can refer back to this if you wish. Now, in terms of the services GDIC provides, we have 4 major services: proposal development, capture management, support services, and training. In proposal development, we provide eligibility and score assessment, full task order or standalone proposal support, as well as IDIQ, BPA, and GWAC proposal support, including things like self-scoring like this one, 2GIT, which is a self-scoring type. Review services for those who have in-house teams, and then staff augmentation. For those who are missing specific staff, we can provide them. Capture management, we have a long or strategic capture, we call it dedicated capture management, as well as sourcing and qualification, which is short term, both of them. Prepare your funnel and go after it. And then we have special services for task orders under Oasis Plus, GSA Mass, Seaport, and other contract vehicles that put out task orders, and you would need support on those. We also have our AI-powered capture management platform called Capture Edge, which is extremely economical and provides all the required needs of a company, from finding RFPs all the way to intel on competitors, on contracts, and so on and so forth. Everything you would need from such a platform. Our support services, we provide CMMC support especially it is important now for DoD contractors. We provide accounting support and preparation for DCMA and DCAA audits. Price to win, competitive intel, and black hat exercises are another type of service we provide here. And then finally, training, proposal, and capture management training. So these were the services we provide for our contractors. Okay, let's now go into the main subject of the webinar, which is the GSA 2GIT BPA. Let's first look at the history of the 2GIT program. So this was a multiple award blanket purchase agreement, BPA, under contract number blah blah blah, with a 5-year period of performance. It started in 2021 with a $5.5 billion ceiling and 78 awardees. They initially expected 9, but eventually expanded it to 78. But not all of them are active. I think 50 or something are active. It focuses on commercial off-the-shelf COTS IT hardware, software, and ancillary services. So hardware, software, and ancillary services with the specificity of COTS products. It's open to a wide range of customers, including DoD, federal, state, local, and tribal agencies. So all of them can actually put orders under it. It is replacing or has replaced NetSense 2, the Air Force and NetSense 2. And there is discussion, this is new, this was in the upcoming follow-on. There's discussion that the CIO-CS will actually merge into this contract. This is not finalized, so there's just discussion that the CIO-CS that many companies have been waiting for is going to merge into 2GIT, making 2GIT even more important. Now the scope, as the government has put it, says provide a total solution, one-stop shop in the information technology IT market to meet the needs of the Air Force, DoD agencies, and other federal, state, local, regional, tribal governments. So that's the scope of this project. Now, there are 4 major line items. First one is data center, second one is end user, third one is network, and fourth one is radio equipment. So under data center, you have the servers, storage, network equipment, security appliances, and so on and so forth. And of course, all the COTS software related to data center, which means computing and storage. Then you have Lin 2, end user, things like laptops, desktops, ruggedized tablets, thin clients, monitors, and so on and so forth. Again, COTS software related to end user come here also. Under Lin 3 network, we have routers, switches, wireless, video teleconferencing, audio visual, and COTS software. And finally, radio equipment is Lin 4, handhelds, chargers, vehicle units, base stations, trunking systems, and repeaters. So all of these come under the 2GIT BPA contract. Now, in terms of spending, so far over $1 billion in total obligations between fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 25. Fiscal year 23 had the highest peak of $335 million in 1 year. Top buyers for this contract are the Air Force, GSA, and US Army, with the Air Force being by far the largest. There are other agencies also buying, but the Air Force is the largest. And then commonly procured items include laptops, tablets, network devices, and secure radios. So these are mostly purchased through this. This graph shows you how the spend has moved in these years. So it's been going up until 2023. 2024 has been a little bit lower. 2025, as in most other cases, is the lowest. It will catch up eventually, but it seems that 2023 had the highest or the peak at $335 million. Okay, moving forward. So top contractors, those with above 50 million are 5 of them: FCN, Worldwide Technology, Sterling Computer Corporation, Paragon Micro, and New Tech Solutions. I've also listed those between 25 million to 50 million dollars. These meaning received contracts by these 8 companies, 25 to 50 million. There are more companies obviously, but less than 25 million dollars of receipt. So that was a short history of the current 2GIT program. Let's look at the proposal submission process and what it entailed. Now, please note that whatever I'm telling you is on the old 2GIT. The new 2GIT follow-on does not have a new draft RFP, so we do not know exactly what it's going to cover. We do know that it will probably be self-scoring again, but keep in mind that whatever I'm telling you right now is about the 2GIT that was bidded in 2019. So there might be changes once the new 2GIT follow-on comes out, but it seems that it will probably be in line with what we had on the previous 2GIT submission. So let's first look at the minimum requirements. So at that time, the minimum requirements were you need to have a GSA mass contract with applicable SINs like 33411, 511210, 541519, etc., etc. So, and we do know that the follow-on is also being awarded as under GSA mass. So you need to have an active GSA mass contract. You also must have at least 5 years remaining on your GSA schedule at the time of submission, or submit a dual contract request via fast lane before the deadline. So either way, either you have more than 5 years or submit a dual contract request via fast lane. Obviously, you're supposed to provide IT hardware, software that are COTS, and these COTS equipment should comply with the TAA. And then, even though it's not required at the time of submission, but you do need an ISO 9001 2015 certification within 10 months after award. If you have CTAs, all the CTA members must have that too. And since, it's a cost that you have to consider when going after this opportunity. Now, optional but advantageous. So these are not the minimum requirements, but partnering in a strong CTA to increase OEM breadth and past performance points. So you get extra points if you have, if you create a CTA and can provide more points. And then use the fast lane program to expedite mass modifications if needed. So if you need, if you don't have the SINs, for example, that are required, or things like that, you need to use the fast lane program for that. Okay, so what are the minimum or the mandatory submission documents? There's a checklist that you have to provide and complete it. OEM breadth self-scoring matrix, relevant experience matrix. These are documents that you need to provide. Letters of supply, LOSs, and I will go into details of all of these. A supply chain risk management plan, and very, very possibly CMMC certification level 2 for the follow-on. This was not required, obviously, at the time of 2GIT award or solicitation, previous one, but the follow-on will probably require a CMMC certification. And of course, pricing, I will go into details of that, each of these later on. So let's look at the scoring system then. Okay, so there are 5 areas that we should consider, are considered selection criteria. The first 3 are self-scoring. So breadth of original equipment manufacturers or OEMs offered across product categories. This is self-scoring, you get points under. Relevance and complexity of past performance examples. This is self-scoring again. And then socioeconomic standing is self-scoring. The fourth one, which is the SCRM, Supply Chain Risk Management Plan, is a go, no-go. And then competitive and realistic pricing is what is needed. That's a go, no-go again. So essentially, we'll discuss this in more detail in the source selection process, but essentially everything boils down to what your score is, whether you have a go, no, approve, acceptable SCRM plan, and also whether your prices are reasonable and within range. So that's essentially how you can win. This is a self-scoring proposal, so at the end of the day, everybody can, if they don't make a mistake, can provide acceptable pricing, can provide a solid SCRM plan, but the self-scoring one is the one that counts. So, and we will go into the details of these one by one. So I'm going to cover these 5 separately and then discuss how they work. Okay, let's move forward. So let's start the first one, the scoring factor number 1, breadth of OEM. So, and remember it was self-scoring. So there are points awarded based on the number and category range of OEMs. So how many OEMs you have, and not all of them are equal. Some OEMs are more important than others. Cisco is the most important one. You get 300 points if that's one of your OEMs. And then there are Avaya, Brocade, which is Broadcom and Ruckus, Dell, Harris, HP, Motorola, Nutanix, Symantec, and VMware. They get 250 points. The rest of them, and there are over 300 in the list that the government has provided. The rest of them get anything between 150 to 100, and some of them to 10 points only. But the most important are the ones that I've listed. Cisco is the most important, 300 points. And from Avaya to VMware, you get 250 points for each of those. And then, of course, you have to provide a letter of supply, and I'll go into the detail of that in a minute, for each OEM. Otherwise, you don't get the points. So for each of these that you claim, for example, if you claim Cisco, you have to present a letter of supply from Cisco. Total possible score can be 20,620. That's if you cover 313, all of them, listed OEMs and a few more, which is unrealistic. So that 20,000 point is really unrealistic. No company has 313 OEMs under its bag, but that's what's the maximum could be. And out of those 313 that I've written a few more, you get 10 points for a maximum of 20 other OEMs. So if you have other OEMs that are not listed under the listed OEMs that the government has provided, you get 10 points for each for a maximum of 20. So that's 200 points max you can get from OEMs that are not listed. Of course, again, you need to have a letter of supply for any OEM that will provide. So at the end of the day, the more letters of supply you have from the prominent OEMs, from the more important ones, the more your score would be and the higher your chance of award. So this is the most important score factor, I should say, more important than self-score, than experience and others. So try to prepare, and you have time. The 2GIT follow-on is not out. So one of the things you should be doing right now to prepare is to expand your network of OEMs and get those letters of supply from them, and concentrate on those that I've listed. These are the most important ones, from Avaya to VMware, and of course Cisco, and then moving forward with the others. Okay, so now just to give you an idea, these are the OEMs that are most frequently used. So under Lin 1, data center, HP, APC, VMware, Nutanix, Dell, and IBM are used more. Lin 2 end user, Dell, HP, Symantec, Avaya, LG, Samsung, and McAfee. And then Lin 3 network, Cisco, Extreme Networks, Broadcom, Ruckus, Brocade, Symantec, NetApp, F5 Networks, and Juniper. And then under Lin 4, which is radio equipment, it's obviously Motorola, and then Harris. So these are the most important OEMs. Okay, so you can have two relationships. You can have a manufacturer LOS in which manufacturer XXX, whatever, agrees to supply you, the vendor, YYY, direct. That's acceptable. There's also another type of LOS called uninterrupted supplier, meaning that manufacturer XXX, like Apple, like Dell, or like Cisco, agrees to supply uninterrupted supplier ZZZ, another company, not you. Then that uninterrupted supplier ZZZ agrees to supply you, the vendor. If that's the case, then both types of documentation is required. So if you're going for uninterrupted supplier LOS, you also need to have the manufacturer's agreement with that company. Maybe it's their distributor or something. So you have to, when you're presenting your proposal, you have to provide both documents. The LOS that say Cisco has with its distributor, and then the LOS that the distributor has given to you. Both of those are needed. And here are some samples. So this is a direct LOS, product supply letter. I've included it here. The wording, this is as the government has provided it actually. So I'm not going to read it, but you can go over it later. And this is a sample of the uninterrupted supplier type letter that you would need. So if you're going through this, you need the previous letter as well. So these are the two samples that I put in here. Now, let's also discuss the definition. So what is an authorized distributor? The company possesses a valid letter of supply for each of the products that they are coding under their GSA schedule contract for the BPA. This is called an authorized distributor. An authorized reseller is a company that possesses a valid LOS for each of the products that they are coding under their GSA schedule contract for the BPA, or if the company does not hold the GSA contract for the products but codes the products of another GSA contract holder, a company that is authorized in accordance with GSAR blah 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 ordering information to provide quotes, accept orders under the awarded BPA, provided that the BPA holder's GSA schedule contract lists the company as a participating dealer reseller. So if you don't have the LOS for that, but you are using another companies, then in your submission, you have to actually list them as a participating dealer or reseller. So these are the two types that you can get the LOS for. Okay, so that was the first scoring factor, which, as I mentioned, is the most important one. So expanding your network of OEMs and getting the LOS is the most important thing to do. Next comes relevant experience. Let's look at that. So here, scoring depends on the relevance, scope, and complexity of prior contracts. I'll go into detail of that. Required detailed documentation, it requires required detailed documentation including title, the contract value, scope, performance periods, so the SAO, the award, all of that type of documentation. Contracts could be federal or state, local, or commercial, so all of them are acceptable. Contracts can be or could be standalone contracts, BPAs, or orders. Contracts should have been performed within the past 3 years, so we'll have to see, of course, what the follow-on will say. They will probably keep this. Contracts should be similar to the government's requirements, meaning IT products similar to 2GIT. And then total score for relevant experience was 1,650. So this was the maximum score that you could get under relevant experience. If you compare it with those numbers on the previous score factor, Cisco by itself 300, and we had 8 or 9 major ones, each of them 250. You can see that if you expand your OEM network, that will get you way above 1,650. Of course, you need to have this as well, but I want to give you an idea that the previous score factor, which is the breadth of OEMs, is more important than this because it gives you more points. Okay, let's see how the points work. So there are 9 areas that give you points. Value of the contracts. So and they range from $750,000 to $10 million. You can have how many of these you have. I'm not going to go into the details because they will probably change in the new follow-up. I don't want to take your time, but the maximum you can get under the value of the contracts is 250 points. Then OCONUS deliveries. Maybe the contract was in US, but you did have deliveries in OCONUS. Now, based on the value of the contract, the maximum points you can get is 250 points. OCONUS performed contracts. Some contracts were totally performed outside US. Again, based on the value of the contract, 250 points max. Contracts with SCRM requirements. If you have those, maximum, depending again on the value, 250 points. Contracts with highest number of orders, up to 300 orders. So if you can provide 300 orders over, say, a range of 5 contracts, you get the maximum 100 points. If it's less, then it goes to 75, 50 points, and so on and so forth. Contracts with CTAs, 100 points max. So if they want to encourage CTAs. So if you had contracts that were performed as a CTA, you get 100 points. And then for some certifications like ISO 9001, 27001, 28000, and 2243, 2018, which is the same as OTTPS Tier 1. If any of these, each of them will get you higher score, but the maximum you can get when you add it up is 300 points. Now, in terms of facility clearance, you get 50 points if you have a secret facility clearance and 100 additional points for top secret. So if you have a top secret facility clearance, you get 150, meaning 50 for secret, because obviously you have secret when you have top secret, and then 100 for the top secret one. And then contracts that require DD254 for delivery and performance. Again, depending on the value, you get another 250. If you add these up, the maximum cannot go over 1,650. So that's how you actually calculate the score. I did not go into the details of these, for example, what the range of contract value is for each of these points, but it's essentially something between, as I said, $750,000 to $10 million in most cases. So that was the second score factor. So let's go into the third score factor, which is the socioeconomic team makeup. This is again, they want to encourage CTA. So if you have a CTA, if you have a team made up of 100% small business members, you receive 400 points. So if your CTA team, there's no requirement necessarily that the entire team must be small. So maybe you have a large business within your team, that's acceptable. But if all of them are small businesses, you get 400 points. If more than 40% are small businesses, then you get 200 points, and below 40%, you get 0 points. So if, say, how do you calculate the percent? Say you have 10 companies and 7 of them are small, 3 of them are large. So that's 70% small, 30% large. So you actually are above 40, so you get 200 points. So that's how you calculate it by the number of companies. So that's how you calculate the percentage. Okay, so that was the third socioeconomic, and you can see that the maximum here you get 400, which is less than 1,650 of the second past experience scoring factor, which is again less than the breadth of OEM, which can go to the thousands, depending on how many OEMs you have LOSs with. So these were the three factors. I forgot to mention some of the details of creating CTAs. So CTAs are allowed at the BPA level, and you can use the CTA member projects. That's the good thing about it. So when you want to get, and as well as the LOSs, so OEM breadth and relevant experience, you can use CTA members projects. CTA members must be GSA mass contract holders, obviously, but only one submission is allowed. So, I mean, they cannot be submitting separately. If they're part of your CTA, there's only one submission allowed. Subcontractors, remember, are not CTA team members. A CTA is different from prime sub relationship. Okay. If you're only intending to subcontract, you do not need to submit teaming agreements with your quotation or anything like that. But you don't get those 400 points, for example, for a CTA member in the third sub-factor. But you can actually have subcontractors, and you can't use their projects either. In the event a CTA is being quoted, the quotation shall include a signed by obviously an authorized representative and dated copy of the CTA in your submission. Okay, so those are the three major scoring factors. Now there are some non-scoring factors, and the first one is SCRM, which is important, the SCRM plan. So contractors needed to comply with ISO 20243 and NIST SP 800-161 frameworks. Detailed SCRM plans was required. Plans had to detail internal inspection routines, staff training programs, continuous updates to ensure compliance, and it was an elaborate plan that they required. The SCRM evaluation factor was focused on, it's a go, no go, but the evaluation factor was focused on demonstrated performance, including detailed SCRM plan addressing all the requirements of the RFQ, identification of relevant government contract experience implementing SCRM requirements, and providing relevant results from inspection, incident management, audit reports, and so on and so forth. Now, for that was the previous 2GIT. They will probably require CMMC level 2 certification for the follow-on. So start preparing for that if you do not have that already under your belt. CMMC level 2, it's important. Okay, now I did mention ISO 9001, I think. You do not need to submit that, but if you're awarded, you must obtain your ISO 9001 2015 certification within 10 months after BPA award. If a contractor teaming arrangement CTA applies, in other words, you've created CTA, all the members must get those ISO 9001s within 10 months, not just the main managing member. So if you have a team of say 5 companies, all of them must get their ISO 9001 2015 within 10 months of BPA award. Okay, and then if you have dealers, resellers, they must have ISO 9001 2015 certified within 10 months after BPA award as well. And you must maintain it throughout the life of the BPA. And the 2008 version does not count, so it's not acceptable. So if you have ISO 9001 2008, it's time to update it because that's not acceptable. You have to have the 2015 version certification. Okay, the second non-scoring factor, B, is price. And I wanted to cover that a little bit too. So how does it work? Vendors priced a standardized list of IT products using attachment E. So there is an attachment that came with the previous RFP. Obviously, it had a list of OEMs that you had to price specific equipment from them. So, and if you did not provide pricing for those items, your pricing would be unacceptable and you would lose award. So proposed pricing had to be on schedule and reflect fair market conditions. There was a list of equipment and supplies under each of the 4 LINs, data center and user network radio equipment, that were to be priced. The document was called Market Basket. All of them had to be priced, so you can't go just for one. All of them had to be priced. Price is reviewed for fairness and reasonableness, as well as completeness, meaning providing pricing for all items in the market basket. And I will show you a sample. So this is a sample of, you can see to the left is the list of OEMs. Starts with Aruba, Black Box, then Cisco, and so on. And then the equipment that is needed. And to the right, you're supposed to provide pricing. Obviously, your pricing cannot be more than your BPA prices, but you can provide less or equal. But you need to provide pricing. They just want to make sure that you can provide pricing and your prices are reasonable and complete. So make sure that you don't skip any of these equipment prices for the new follow-on, obviously. Okay, let's discuss the source selection process a little bit more in detail. So it's called the best value approach. It's not an LPTA, not a lowest price technically acceptable. So you're not supposed to go, bring your prices so much down to win, nothing like that. As I said, price does not get you anywhere. They just want to make sure that your prices are complete, are reasonable, and correct. That's all. Having the lowest price doesn't give you any advantage. The previous 2GIT, they had 82 vendors. So perhaps around that number, we are not sure. As I said, the draft RFP for the follow-up has not dropped. So we don't know exactly how many vendors they're going to select. Now the process is these 3 steps. First, remember this was a self-scoring. So you've scored yourself and come up with, say, I'm just giving a number, 8,000 points. So what their government is going to do in step 1, they're going to select the top X, and the X means number of awards. So if they've decided to go for, say, 50 companies only, they rank all the submissions based on the self-score that each company has done itself. They rank them, pick the top 50, and will look at those 50 only. So if they receive 250 submissions, they're not going to look at all 250 submissions. They are going to look at only 50 being the number of, we are assuming that they want to award to 50 companies, just for example. So they're going to look at only the 50 proposals that have the highest score. Okay, that's how self-scoring submissions work. They're not going to look at all the 250 point submissions. They're going to review the codes, review and verify the self-scoring assessment scores, make sure that the scoring is correct. They're going to make sure that the documentation that you have provided, meaning the LOSs, for example, meaning the documentation for the contracts, the award document, the SAO, and things like that, that you would need for each of those 3 score factors are correct and in place. Now, if there is a problem, if they find out that a coder fails to provide proof or has not, scored itself correctly, they modify the score. So they lessen the score. So if we have gone for 8,000, they find out that we've done a mistake and we deserve only 7,500, then our score comes to 7,500. Now, if our score drops so much that we are lower than the 51st submission, then they will pick that 51st submission and put us aside. So maybe we were the 50th, the last one with 8,000. Everybody else had a higher score than us. And then we lose 500 points, we come to 7,500, and the 51st company had, say, 7,800 points. So they will pick that and put us aside. That's the process that they will go. Then, so once they ascertain, the proof documents that we provided, they ascertain the score, and at the end of it, they have 50 companies. Again, remember that 50 is imaginary. They have 50 companies with the highest scores. Then they check the SCRM plan. It's a go, no-go selection. They just want to make sure that it's correct. And then they check our pricing for fairness, completeness, and reasonableness. That's all. So remember, you can see that they're not going to compare your pricing with others. They will compare your score with others. And your score was made up of those three main score factors, which were breadth of OEM, how many OEMs you have under your belt, past experience, and we went over those, which was 1,650 points max. And then if you had a teaming a CTA arrangement, all small business, you would get 400 extra points. That is how you are actually selected. Just make sure that your SCRM plan is a good one, so you pass that. Make sure your pricing has no mistakes, is fair, complete, and reasonable. That's it. They're not going to, so as you can see, having a very low price does not help you at all. Having a very high price is not a major problem, even if you're, obviously you cannot go over your GSA mass prices, but if your GSA mass prices are high and you were accepted, you were awarded under GSA mass, that's good, that's fine. So again, you can see that everything boils down to your score on that number one, and how you actually prepare your proposal, how you score yourself, how you prepare the documentation to prove. I've seen many cases that the company really deserves the score, but they have not provided the documentation, and the government does not, give them the score they deserve, and they lose. So you have to make sure that you provide all the documentation that is needed. So that's how the source selection process works. Okay, a few points about the follow-on. So from what we've heard, the draft RFP, we are expecting it sometime mid-2025, perhaps in July. That's what we've heard. The final RFP release is anticipated in September 2025, and award decisions forecasted for February 2026. Again, as I said, you've worked with the government, so there might be delays, and things might actually go down, and these days change. So let's see now how to prepare now. So those were the dates, but what should you do now? Should you wait until 2GIT drops and then start working? No, by no means, no. Update and formalize relationships with OEMs and obtain valid letters of supply. This is the most important part that you should start right now. Why? Because as we saw, the breadth of OEM has the highest score. So the more OEMs you have LOSs from, letters of supply, the more points you get. So use this time before the RFP drops to maximize this. Identify and document strongest past performance examples early. Again, you get 1,650 points there, so you want to get the maximum of those. You might need to create a CTA, because you have to do a gap analysis and see where you stand on those, and then go after CTA members. Obviously, as I mentioned, we do not know exactly what the follow-on requirements will be, but we expect very much to be in line with the previous one. Develop or refine your SCRM plan now, don't wait. So that has a lot of work to do. So, and the plan they want is very elaborate, so work on it. Begin teaming discussions or CTA formation if required now, don't wait then. Start getting your CMMC certification if you have not done so already. As I mentioned, I strongly suspect that CMMC certification will be one of the requirements once the 2GIT will drop, because obviously this will be mostly used by the Air Force and DoD. And they require CMMC certification, so level 2 usually. So start going for that. And then if you do not have a GSA SAM schedule contract, if you're not a contract holder, start the process now. Why do I say that? You might say, hey, it's too late. Yes, previously it took between 6 months to 12 months after you submitted your proposal to them to actually get the award. But now they have streamlined this. It's very quick. For example, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, we submitted a proposal for one of our clients. And just 2 weeks later, the contracting officer started communicating with us, and we received the award within a month and a half. So within a month, actually. So they're very quick. So if you start now, you can actually, if you're not on GSA SAM, you can actually be on GSA SAM by the time 2GIT drops. And obviously they will give a month or two for preparation of the proposal. So you will be in time and you can use this. So that's my recommendation. If you're not on GSA SAM, don't panic, you can get on it, but you have to move now. How can we help you? Okay, so we can obviously provide full service proposal development, including compliance reviews for you. We can do the self-scoring matrix optimization to maximize evaluation points. Custom tailored SCRM plan drafting services if you need. We've done this before and we can prepare it. As I said, we prepared for 6 companies and all 6 were awarded. Support with contractor teaming agreement strategy and documentation if that's needed. Support getting your CMMC level 2 certification. We can support you on that. And support for getting you on GSA Mass, obviously. GSA Mass contract for those of you who are not on it already. Now I've put in my and my colleagues' contact information, email and phone. Email is preferred. So if you would like a consultation, obviously these are free consultation call, by all means contact Maroon Freedy, my colleague, and we'll jump on a call, discuss any questions that you might have. I will try to answer you, or for sales and other issues, you can directly communicate with Maroon. Technical issues with me. Okay, just to wrap up everything, the webinar takeaways. So 2GIT BPA will be highly competitive. Its self-scoring preparation will be the key differentiator. So any company that starts now will be, will have a much higher chance of winning than, waiting at that time. And it's going to be highly competitive. So put as much energy and resources on it as you can. Document readiness should begin now, not after the draft drops. Document readiness has 2 sides. One is the LOSs that you have to get from the maximum number of OEMs that you have. And also for some companies who are widespread, they just don't have a centralized place, especially larger companies are like this, a centralized place for their contract documentation. I've worked with a few very large defense contractors, and they had 10 different offices in the US. Each office managed its own contracts, whereas you might be able to use all, some of them from each of these offices in this particular 2GIT BPA. So you need to actually get together and prepare for that 2GIT in terms of the documentation that is needed on that second scoring factor, past experience. And then finally, partner with us to leverage our many years of proposal and capture experience. We can help you in different ways, from specific things like CMMC support or GSA mass, getting on it, to all the way to actually preparing the proposal for you, starting the process, finding the gaps, what you should go after, helping you on the CTA creation, and so on and so forth. So that was the major takeaway, and we've reached the Q&A session. We have a few minutes, and I can see that there are quite a few questions, and I will start answering them now. Now, before I go into the questions, I did want to make one announcement. We are holding a 6-hour training system for self-scoring, advanced self-scoring, 6 hours. It will be held in 3 days, each day 2 hours. We will hold this in the 3rd week of June as well as the 4th week of June. So depending on your hours, one is from 1 to 3 p.m. and the other is 10 a.m. to 12 noon. I will put the link of that training here, so you can actually, if it's something that you need, you can actually attend. So it's a 6-hour class, and advanced self-scoring, it's really required for all proposal managers, capture managers, and business development professionals, because it seems that GSA is being used more and more, and GSA is obviously the forefront of using these self-scoring proposals similar to this 2GIT. Okay, so let's start with the questions then. Okay, question number 1 from John. I heard there were 5 LINs at the time. Yes, John, that's correct. So there is the LIN number 5, which is for order level material. They call it OLM, but that's unpriced. So I did not include it. Question from Paul. Please explain about CMMC that you said they will ask for. Right, so there is a requirement by the DoD, Department of Defense, which covers all the agencies, including all the departments under it, Navy, Air Force, Army, everything, that all companies that are going to work, or contractors that are going to work with the government starting in 2025 must have a CMMC certification, level 1, 2, or 3, depending on the RFP. Level 1 is self-attestation. Most requirements do not accept that, so minimum is usually level 2 or level 3. And the process is that you have to actually have a consultant that helps you, and then the CPAO company, 3CPAO company, actually coming in and certifying you. So you cannot self-certify. A company that has been approved by the government can come in and actually certify you. It's a costly project. I mean, starts from anywhere between 10,000–15,000 for the consultation, depending on the size of the company. For larger companies, it goes all the way to $50,000–$60,000 sometimes for large companies. And then the certification itself, again, is a hefty amount, 30, 40, I've heard 50,000, even some companies asking for it. So it's a large investment, but it's a must. If you're planning to work with DoD, you might not go for it now, but 2026 for sure, you know, you cannot participate in any RFPs, and we might actually see it in the towards the end of 2025 being a full requirement. Now it's, you know, for self-scoring proposals, you get a point for it. So it's not a must right now in most cases. I've seen some put out some RFPs like maps that it was a requirement, but mostly it is not a must right now. But I would be expecting that in 4 or 5 months or a little bit more, it will be a requirement, and getting it will take that time. So For everyone who does not have a CMMC certification level 2, by all means, you should go after it, even though it's a hefty investment. And contact us if you need support for that. We can help you on that. Question from Samantha. Did you mention that our pricing is not compared with other bidders? Can you explain how this works? Right. So as I mentioned, this is a self-scoring proposal. They care about the score. They don't care about the price. So whoever has the highest score wins. You just have to make sure that your pricing is within the range. It's not too high over your, say, GSA prices. It's not too low. It's reasonable. And that's it. And they're not going to compare your price with others. They just want to make sure that you've priced everything, all the items in that. They have a list of items that you're supposed to provide pricing for. They want to make sure it's complete, it's reasonable and fair. That's all. So that's how they check your pricing. A question from Caleb. Is there direction as to how we can prepare our SCRM plans? Yes. So the previous RFP had a full detail of how you're supposed to provide your SCRM plan. They will probably amend that a little bit, but essentially what is needed is actually in the previous RFP, and you can start basing the preparation on that, and then once the full RFP, the new one for the follow-on drops, you can just amend it. Don't wait until the full RFP drops. Question from Bill. I've heard that the Air Force must buy through 2GIT. Is this correct? Yes, that's correct. So the Air Force buyers, all of them, must use 2GIT for all COTS IT product purchases, meaning hardware and software. COTS, hardware and software, all of it must be bought through 2GIT. That's why 2GIT is so important. That's for Air Force. Other agencies are using it too, as I mentioned. DoD, other agencies within DoD, as well as GSA itself are using it actually. Question from Brian. When you said 78 awards, does that mean 78 separate contracts? No, perhaps I worded it incorrectly. So there are 78 vendors, but there are in 10 CTAs overall. Initially, they wanted 9 awards, but they awarded to 10 CTAs. So there are 10 CTAs, 10 awards in terms of separate entities, but overall, these CTAs, 10 CTAs, cover 78 different companies. Okay, question from Colin. Where do the orders under the 2GIT appear? Do they have a separate portal or is it in SAM? Okay, so since this is under GSA Mass, all the orders are listed in the GSA eBuy portal. They're not listed in SAM, so you don't see them there. You have to have access to eBuy, and to have access to eBuy, you have to be an awardee of GSA Mass. That way, or actually Oasis Plus also appears there too, either of these. But you have to, have access to eBuy portal to actually see those task orders. Okay, another question from Kumar. Please explain the first 2 score factors and what is the difference. So, okay, first score factor was OEM breadth. And for each OEM that you had an LOS with, you would get a point. For Cisco, 300 points. For 7 or 8 of them that I mentioned, Avaya and so on and so forth, all the way to VMware, you get 250 points. And then there are others that have 200. Some have 100 points, depending on how important they are to the government. Some even have 10. There's a list of them, over 300 of them in one of the attached documents to the RFP, to the previous RFP, obviously. And then there's no limit. If you have an LOS, you get the points for it. Now, so you have to, it's better to go after the higher one, the ones with the higher score. That's the first score factor. The second score factor was the experience part, meaning, as I mentioned, how many projects you had with a certain value, whether it was CONUS, OCONUS, and that sort of things, which we went over. So those are different. One is OEM breadth, how many OEMs you can bring to the table. The other is your own past performance, the contracts that you have performed. And both of these, if you have a CTA, you can use your CTA member LOSs and relationship with the OEMs, as well as your CTA member past experience. So in both cases, it can be used. Okay, Joe, is there a limit to the number of OEMs you can use? No, as I said, you can as many as you have, but I did mention that you should concentrate on the ones with the highest score. Let's answer one more. We have run out of time. Michael, Michael asks, can you tell me what exact SINs we have to participate? We have to participate in 2GIT. Okay, so the previous ones were 5. 33411, which is purchase of new electronic equipment. It used to be SIN 132-8. Then 811212, maintenance of equipment, repair services and or repair spare parts. This used to be 132-12. 511210, software licenses. This used to be 132-32 and 132-33. I'm giving you the old ones so you can understand. 54151, software maintenance services. This used to be 132-34. And finally, the fifth one is OLM, order level material. Formerly, this was SIN 70-500. So these were the 5 SINs that you need to have any of these to be able to go for it. Okay, we've run out of time. I would like to thank everyone for participating in our webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. You see my email here and in that slide that had my contact information. I thank you again for participating in our webinar. Have a wonderful day.